Excellent. All right, I'm going to read out the introductions of our guests, and then Dixon's going to tell us his story. It's going to be very good. So Dixon Bahandagira is a 23-year-old climate activist and student of environmental science from Uganda. He is currently undertaking a project to plant 1 million trees to curb the impacts of climate breakdown already being felt in Uganda. Dixon faces many hardships along this journey, including recent severe flooding, the COVID pandemic and lockdowns, which have had huge impacts on the people of Uganda, 38% of whom live in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day, and the intimidation of climate activists by the government. Nevertheless, Dixon is determined to keep going and do everything he can. He is an exemplary advocate for commitment and community in the face of adversity. Now, Roger Hallam is a co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, Burning Pink, and Insulate Britain. He's going to talk about our duty at this time. He will share with us the Insulate Britain campaign, their shift towards a bread and butter campaign that employs a rapid mobilization model, as well as an update on high-level civil disobedience campaigns happening around the world. Now, I'm going to quickly talk about Dixon's funding campaign. I think we'll put a link in the chat right now. So if you can, please donate to Dixon. He's going to try and plant 1 million trees in Uganda, and he's going to tell you his story now. Go, Dixon. Still on mute, Dixon. Wait, yeah. There you go.
Thank you for inviting me and having me here. You know, we have 3 types of people in this world. People who watch things happen, people who talk about what happened, and people who make things happen. So you need to know, who are you? Are you the kind of person who watches things happen, or the kind of person who makes things happen, or the person who watches things happen, or you talk about things that happen, oh, this one is doing this, you're doing amazing, Dixon, what, or you also make things happen. You also carry out actions. Who are you? Anyway, I'm Dixon Bahandagira. I'm a philanthropist, an environmentalist, and a climate activist from Uganda. For the past 2 years, I've been striking, protesting against the climate action, trying to put our leaders at stake to try and curb climate change, to try and create a big impact, to try and prepare for the next generation. But they feel like they don't want to care. They don't listen to our voices. What they focus on is the next election. Are we ready to win the next election? What we are doing, is it going to win us the next election? But they don't care about the next generation. The next generation is in danger. And it's us to create a great change, a great environment that will make the next generation safe. November last year, I saw and it decided to start up a campaign of planting 1 million trees, because they had to take concrete action. Striking, protesting was not enough on my side, because I could strike, but the government don't want to hear. They don't want to listen to our voices. They see us as a threat. They just decide to silence us, but they don't want to do what we want them to do. So they started up a campaign of planting 1 million trees to create awareness, because the level of illiteracy is high. That's a big advantage to the government. It's a very, very big advantage to the government, because people don't understand climate change. People don't understand what the government should do for them. They just always come up with temporary solutions, like whenever we are faced by floods, they just come out, give out blankets, give out food. That's temporary. That does not cover the climate crisis. That does not reduce on the floods. Floods are happening each and every year. We are victims. And the government doesn't care. For them, they just come up with things that can win people's hearts, because people don't understand climate change. People don't understand what is happening. They just think it's danger, it has to keep on happening. They don't know that there can be permanent solutions. There can be things that can be done for this to stop. We are not going to face this each and every year. So that's why I decided to come, because I think this is the cheapest way we can curb climate change. Trees can absorb the emissions from the atmosphere, the CO2 in the atmosphere. So I started this campaign. It's hard. Many people see it as impossible. You cannot plant 1 million trees. How dare can you try this campaign? Many people received a lot of bad comments. You can't manage. Where are you going to get the funds? Where are you going to get the support? You cannot manage to do this. How are you going to focus on your books? How are you going to do this? But I told them one thing. It's better to start. Even a journey of 1 million, I've done 1 million miles, has to be started by one step. And it's always trust and faith. Faith is very important. The faith you have when you don't know how many staircases you're going to take, but still you take the first case. That's me. I had to start up. I do this campaign in schools, hospitals. I plant trees around the community, and I'm trying to recover the natural forest. We had forests. The Bugoma forest was sold recently to the sugarcane growers. Imagine selling. It's the lungs of our country, the Bugoma forest, the lungs of our country, but it was sold to Indians so that they can start up sugarcane growing plantation. What an embarrassment to the country. And these decisions are made by our leaders that should be exemplary, leaders that should solve people's problems. They're the one creating them. No wonder, sometimes I ask myself, do our leaders understand the climate change? Do our leaders understand the climate crisis? I know, because you can never solve a crisis you don't understand. But still, we have to continue putting them on pressure. We have to continue pushing for the better. I do this campaign in schools, create awareness. I know there are not many in schools. It's very tough to be in schools in Uganda, very tough. The level of poverty is high. Many people don't afford school fees. The education system is expensive, very expensive to attend school, very, very expensive. And the school dropout is high because of different reasons, floods blocking out some roads, menstrual period. Many girls drop out of school because of the menstrual period. And the government don't care. They don't come up with solutions. They are just focusing on their own. Their children are not studying from Uganda. They're studying in developed countries, Australia, UK, Germany. No, they don't care. They don't care what you study. They don't care. Our education system is not the best. We don't have a curriculum about climate change. We are pushing for that. But still, they see us as a threat. They silence us. We are facing a lot of problems. So I did not just stop on planting trees alone. I advocate for better governance. I advocate for better change. We really need to have that big impact. I inspire youths out there, because many people don't believe in what we are saying because they are uneducated. Many people don't believe that this can happen, that you can make this happen, because many are silenced. Many of my fellow activists are scared. Others are leaving activism because it's very tough to operate in Africa. It's very tough to operate. Our leaders are merciless. They don't care. They don't care. For them, they just focus on staying in power. What can keep them in power? They don't want us to expose them. They don't want us to do things that can make them become unpopular. And we have to keep on pushing. I don't care whether they arrest me. I don't care whether they silence me, but I'm not going to disappoint my generation. I have to keep on pushing. I'm from the global south. Historically, Africa contributes only 3% of the global emissions. But tell you what, Africans are already suffering from the most brutal impact fueled by the climate change. Floods, drought, rapidly intensifying hurricanes. I can't mention all, but floods and drought have left nothing to the people except pain, agony, suffering, starvation, and death. I myself am a victim of climate change. I'm a victim. Floods hit my country. I was young, and our family, a house was destroyed. Everything was in a mess, and I could not grow up with my dad. I don't know the love of my dad. It just met my, after over 18 years without my dad. I had to struggle with my mom because the person who could help us to give us where to stay could only afford to give us one room where we could stay 5 people in a room, my brother and my sister, plus our cousin and my mom. I don't know how it feels to grow up with a grandmother or a granddad. I don't know how it feels to grow up in a family where you're with your dad and your mom. It's very tough. Our house was destroyed, our crops, because Uganda, we're an agro-based economy. It's only crops, it's only productions. It's only production that can help us like raise money. I had to drop out of school for 2 years, 2 solid years, because my mom could not afford school fees. My mom could not afford because all our crops were destroyed. We had to stay there. Our sister had to sacrifice to stop schooling for at least us to attend school. After 2 years, when others are attending great schools, are going to great schools, universities, big universities outside Uganda, because our leaders are rich. Kleptocracy. You know how corrupt leaders of our country embezzle money and everything for them to support their families, for them to acquire wealth. I don't think you can enjoy wealth when many people are suffering, but they're heartless. Whatever happens, they just go. That's why I thank the COVID-19. Every country was hit. It was a global pandemic. You had to stay in your own country. But here we are, floods hit. Many people disappear. The leaders are rich. They just go and take on an aeroplane, go to other big countries that are okay, but they don't want to solve the problems in our country. And for me, this is my only home. This is the only home I have. I'm a Ugandan. I live in Uganda. I cannot afford an aeroplane. I cannot afford to go in another country. I have to create a big impact. I have to create a big change. That's why I had to come up with a campaign of planting at least 1 million trees. I don't want everyone to suffer like how we suffered. I don't want to see many youth dropping out of school. I don't want to see many people out there suffering, losing their properties, death after death. Many people have been left orphans. The just recent floods that hit our country this year, it was terrible. Over 35 people died. Millions and millions of people were displaced. They don't have where to stay. They are just in a camp. Again, the government is not coming up with permanent solutions. They are creating their own solutions, giving out food. Giving out food, that does not solve the problem we are facing now. We are facing a climate crisis. This is a global crisis that we have to come up with permanent solution. We are coming up with solutions, but the government doesn't want to care. They don't want to support us. They just see us as a threat, which is something discussed. I'm not fighting for political power. I don't want to be a president. I don't want to be a member of parliament, but I want to be a leader of my people. I want to transform my society. I want to transform my community. I want to create a great environment for my people, for the next generation, for my generation. You know, it's not, you can never seek happiness through buying what you like most. You cannot seek happiness through doing what you like most, but you can seek happiness and can easily get happiness when you make someone happy. It's very easy and it can be done by everyone, making someone happy, creating a big impact. They also want to see my people settled. They want to see my people living in a good way. The standard of living should change. We are in a country where the cost of living is high, but many people are poor. 38% live below $1. Can you imagine $1, 38%? But our member of parliament are earning huge amounts of money, 32 million each and every month. We have 506 members of parliament. You can do your mathematics, you can see how huge our expenditure is on useless things. We are a small country, 42 million people, but having a huge parliament, they are just focusing on sharing the bread. They are just eating our resources. Exploitation is high. And they don't care. They don't care about the poor people because we are voiceless. We can easily be silenced. Many people, I lost friends because my friends were receiving threats from big people because of my campaign of fighting for Goma Forest. We tried our level best, but again, they had to sell it. because we didn't have the power. We are not the one to make decisions. We can push. We can put our governments on task, but still, they sometimes win us because we are few. We are silenced. Many people fear to be activists. Many people fear to use their voice for the voiceless. And I'm here representing the voiceless people. I'm here representing the poor people. I'm proud where I come from, and I know it can create a big impact. It can create a big change because it was meant to be this. Situations changed my life. Circumstances changed my life. I could not just watch people suffering. I can't just watch people hustling, living on one meal, which you are not sure if you are going to get it or not. Many people are dying of hunger. And this is not only happening in Uganda. Check out what is happening in Ethiopia. People are dying because of hunger. Check out what is happening in Madagascar. 4 years, men are receiving rain. And still our AU, African Union, don't act. African Union don't come up with solutions. What they do is carrying out summits. Summits don't solve problems. They just talk about problems. We need action. We need concrete action. If me alone can come up with a campaign of planting 1 million trees, how about big companies? Total that is destroying our planet. Total that is putting all this, coming up with all this. They can't plant even 1,000 trees. I can't talk about companies. There are many. Still, they don't care. They care about making profits. Profits. But profits will be useless on a dead planet. Trust me, they will be useless on a dead country, on a dead planet. When it comes to election, you see how our leaders react. You see how our leaders splash money after money. They give out money to people because people don't know what their leaders should do. They think you can just buy a vote. $1 can get you votes after votes. Because of $1, many people spend years, even holding $5. So after 5 years, they come up with a lot of money, win the next election. Problems are the same. They don't solve the problems. They don't work for the people. I know sometimes I wonder why people don't see what Nelson Mandela did. They don't see what Martin Luther King did. They're just about their wealth. They're just about wealth. I don't understand why they don't come up with solutions. They don't want to create legacies. They don't, you see, this world cannot talk about how rich you are. They don't talk about how big you are. They don't talk about the biggest expensive car you're driving. But they talk about the Nelson Mandelas of this world. They were not cheap, they were not expensive, they were not rich. But what they delivered to their countries, they left legacies behind, but our leaders lost that. Our leaders care about wealth. Our leaders care about things that can keep them in power, things that can make them popular. They think giving out money, they think being rich can make you popular, but they don't know creating big impacts can make you popular. Creating a big change can make you popular. Our societies are dying. I'm from a Pearl of Africa. You know, British named as the Pearl of Africa, but up to now, I have lived not to witness the Pearl of Africa. Pearl of Africa, when people are suffering, a Pearl of Africa should not be experiencing floods, should not be experiencing drought, hunger, unemployment, the level of unemployment. Oh my God, I can't talk about this. Out of 50,000 students that graduate a year, only 3,000 can get jobs. 3,000. And the government don't care, and the government don't care to create big impact. Because when I talk about the climate, when I talk about the green economy, I think about jobs. We can create jobs through fighting. Many people come up with great ideas that can curb climate change, ideas that can create employment. But here we are. You know, our leaders believe the only way you can rule someone for years and years and years is to keep them poor. They want us to remain poor. They want to keep our youth poor. They want our youth not to study, not to understand what is happening in the world. You know, when someone is educated, it's not easy. It's not easy to lie him. It's not easy to do what you are doing to people who are illiterate because they don't know sorts of their plans to remain us literate, to make us more and more poor. Only I think 1% benefit in the 1% benefit in the programs that they come up with. Many people are struggling. Many people are dying. The medical system, the health system. You know, now schools are closed for the past 2 years, schools. But we know the only way you can fight poverty, only 3 things that can fight poverty in this world. The number 1 is education, number 2 is education, number 3 is education. But here we are, 2 years men are going to school. How many have dropped out? How many will come back to study? Because parents have lost jobs. Many people, young pregnancies, girls as young as 10 years, they are becoming pregnant because they are at home. They are at home. There is no way they can get access to education. There is no way. Our government is planning to open up schools next year. Imagine next year. But a lot of crisis is happening. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are suffering because of no education. The health system, they are talking about vaccination, but we are not receiving vaccines. People are embezzling money. The big officials already received the vaccines. Our parents are in danger. And there is no way we can do this. And apart from us uniting, creating a movement of movements, this is not just a mere change. We have to create a movement of movements. It doesn't need you to be a Ugandan to fight for Uganda. It doesn't need you to be an African to fight for Africans. You have to fight for your people. You have to defend for the people. Because we are talking about the planet. This is not only happening in Uganda. It's in Africa, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea, Democratic Republic of Congo. And you saw what is happening. It's in Afghanistan, Bangladesh. Germany, floods after floods in Germany, Belgium, the so-called big countries, but they're also experiencing the same because we all have same leaders. We all have leaders that care about the next election, but not the next generation. I salute every activist out there trying to create a big impact. Activists are doing it for the better of the next generation, for the better of the coastal people, the indigenous people who are already experiencing the climate crisis. And I can't tell how huge, how big my 1 million tree planting can be if many people unite, if we unite, because I did not start this as me. This is about my community. This is about my mother earth. Rewarding it. What do you do for your soil? We know we all need a better soil. We are all pushing for a better, but what are you doing to attain that, to achieve that? Nothing. You have to check, what am I doing for me to achieve this better society? Because we are not going to keep on blaming leaders. Me, I no longer care about what our leaders say. I told them, I assured them, this is not about me. I'm not ready to fail my next generation. I'm not ready to listen to your lies. They keep on lying us. They contact us. They buy off activists here. They silence you. They give you money. If you want to be rich, they can easily buy you. But this is not about me becoming rich. It's about me making my people happy. It's about me changing, creating a big change. You know, we are not going to be remembered by our words. We will be remembered by our actions. Our words will disappear. Our words will... Many people keep saying words after words, but actions don't change. Action will mean an action. And this is us. That's why I come up. I always wish to connect with my fellow activists. I always wish to connect with my fellow people who wish well for the next generation, who wish well for this Mother Earth, who wish to create a big impact, who wish to create a big change. That together we can create a big change. That together we can solve each and every problem. When as our leaders, they are now constructing the East African crude oil pipeline. Oh my God, 1,000, 2,000 plus kilometers from Uganda to Tanzania. In Tanzania, many people will be displaced because of the crude oil pipeline. That won't create jobs. It will only benefit the government. It will only benefit the rich people. Rich people will become more richer, but the poor people will become more poor. The pipeline, they will displace over 1 million people. And they don't want us to talk about this. I think I will be imprisoned by this because I'm not going to allow this happen. We are creating a movement of movements. This is not going to happen. We rather die, but not failing our generation. We are not going to fail the next generation. We will keep on trying and trying. I'm not ready to be remembered as a failure or what. I'm ready to be remembered as a person who tried. Only people who try fail. It's not that people who don't fail are excellent or what. They are not doing something, they are not trying. I'm ready to do what I can, create a big change. I'm ready to work with any of you, anyone who is ready to create a big impact in my area, to create a big impact in Africa, to create a big impact. Because this is not only about planting trees. This is not only about talking or what. We can do other things. You can be in love with giving out pads. Because you can try to fight menstrual period. You can support this and this. Because we really need change. And it's us to create the change we want. It's us to start up the change. It's us to create the change. It's us to talk for the voiceless. And I'm here. I don't care about what the government thinks. I don't care about what big people think. But what I care is to see my people happy, is to see my people safe. I always cry when I see my people in the camp. I always cry when I see my people struggling, suffering, the indigenous people, the coastal people struggling. They don't have where to stay. They don't have where to live in a camp, in a situation we are in now, the global pandemic. They are not vaccinated, but still they keep in the camp. You see how hard it is. You see how tough it is. I thank everyone who have supported me. Thank you so much, Andrew George. You have been there for me from day one. Since I connected with you, since I told you about my campaign, you were willing to support me, you were willing to help me. Johan Ponten have met great people who have come on board to help me. I know their help is not enough, but they always create it. You know, it's not about the biggest help we offer, but the little support matters. The little support when multiplied to many, it creates a big impact. Thank you so much to everyone who have supported me. Thank you so much to everyone who wishes well for the next generation, who wishes well for the next generation. I know we can create a big change. And a movement of movements can never be defeated. Because if we are united, nothing can change. If you have a campaign in Australia and they also talk about it and they also post about it, you know, governments may get shy. Oh, people in Uganda are talking about it. If I have a campaign and you people in Australia are also pushing it, what a shame. The government of Uganda may get ashamed. They may do something good. Because I know I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this when I don't have a movement, when I don't have people. I'm a volunteer for Greenpeace Africa, I volunteer for the Fridays for Future. I can volunteer for any organization as long as we are all fighting for the same goal. As long as we are, you know, activism has no competition. It's about creating a big impact. We all wish well for the next generation. We all wish well for our people because they are dying, they are suffering. And our leaders don't care. I don't want even to talk about leaders because in each and every country this is happening, but it's us. It's us to come up with solutions, us to come up with ideas. You may correct me sometimes, you see this, how we can run this campaign. I need a lot of education, knowledge, because there are many ways you can help someone. You can help him with knowledge, advice. I'm open to every advice. I'm open to knowledge. I like learning. I like to understand how we can do this, how we can change this. You can do this, you can do this. I'm creating awareness because I want people to understand climate change. And it's sometimes hard to, our media is dominated by the government officials. TVs, radios are owned by government officials. It's a few radios that can allow me, can host me and extend my voice to the voiceless and they talk to the people, awaken their souls because many people lost hope. Many people don't want to talk about this. Many people don't care about this, but here we are. Thank you, Wilma IGL. You have been there for me, Johan Ponten and everyone. Thank you so much. Every man must said whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. If I knew that tomorrow the world will go to pieces, I would still plant trees. In the end, we will remember not the words of our leaders, but the silence of our people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, let's do like a, yeah, round of applause for Dixon, everyone. Thank you so much, Dixon. There are some questions for you, but we're going to let Roger talk first, and at the end we'll have a question session for both of you together. Thank you so much.
It's okay. You're welcome.
A fantastic speech. All right, Roger.
Yeah, hi. Hi. Am I going for about 20, 25 minutes or something? I can't remember.
25, 30 minutes.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for coming along. Thank you, Dixon. That was great. And yeah, as I always say, like, I'm only talking in my own capacity, so don't need to panic. It's only me. And I'm not employed by anyone. I don't have an official position in the Extinction Rebellion. I was sacked, so I can say what I like. And so I am. Yeah, I've just been involved in probably one of the most intense 4 weeks of my life, doing the promotion of Insulate Britain, which has been in the headlines almost every day in the UK. So I'm going to sort of like talk about that a little bit, but the more that I do this work, like the more I realize it's all about telling the truth, and it's all about acting in the truth, which is sort of convenient because that was the founding principle of Extinction Rebellion. So I'm going to tell you some truths as I see them, and maybe they're wrong, but this is what I think Extinction Rebellion was set up to do, right? To tell the truth and act as if the truth is real. So here's the first truth, right? The first truth is that Australia is done. Australia's done. It's already too late. I mean, when I started coming to Zoom calls with Australian activists, probably about a year and a half ago, you know, I always get struck by this. People don't actually talk about the science. So the thing that was foremost in my mind when I started those meetings was I think there was a peer-reviewed paper that said the fires in Australia, it was 2019, was that, you know, when 20% of the trees burnt down in Australia, was that right? 80% of Australians had some health effects. 1 or 2 billion animals died. That's going to be an average summer in 20 years' time in Australia. That's a peer-reviewed top science paper. In 40 years' time, that's going to be a cool summer. So you know what these papers do, right? These papers always drive me mad, because then I'm going like, what the fuck does that mean? Well, we know what it means, right? It means that Sydney is going to be evacuated in the next decade or two. That's the reality for Australia. Australia is not the lucky country. Australia is the dying country, isn't it? That's the truth. That's where we're at. The critical decade was 2010 to 2020, as the UN said. There's not endless critical decades. I mean, I've got friends in California. They know the score, right? 3 years ago, there was a catastrophic forest fires in California. 2 million acres burnt down. The greatest forest fires in hundreds of years. The following year, 4 million acres burnt down. 4 million acres, that's 4% of California. Go and look at the graph, right? By the end of this decade, there'll be 10, 15, 20% of California's be burning down. They're already moving out of Los Angeles. everyone knows California is going to have to be evacuated. The rich people will go first, and the people who have no part will be the ones that suffer most. It will be the most, what we're engaging here is the most catastrophic act of injustice in human history. That's what's going on. That's the truth. In the paper, The Future of the Human Niche,
You froze there, Roger. Roger,
Maybe
yeah, everyone hide
maybe
videos.
we have to switch off the videos.
Yeah, all right, everyone turn your videos off to hopefully reduce bandwidth. I think Roger might be frozen in fury. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roger, you there? Interesting. All right. We'll get someone onto contacting Roger to see what's going on his end. Dixon, are you still there? Pause recording. Yeah. Thanks, Sergio. All right, so Sergio's going to pause the recording and call Roger.
How many people are actually helping you with your Million Trees campaign, Dixon?
Hello, thank you for your question. Help me. I have a small organization. Consists of 10 people, but I get well-wishers because mostly I plant trees in schools, hospitals. Whenever I go to schools, it's in state students, and we plant trees together. And the community, I always try to engage the community so that they can join me and we plant trees together. But I have a small movement. It's of 9 people, but I want to make it big. I'm still working on it. It's hard to register an organization here, so I'm still doing the paperwork and everything. We are 9 people, but what we do is to get volunteers. Many people are willing to help if they understand the importance of planting trees. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi, Dixon from Australia. Fabulous, passionate talk you gave to us. So thankful I was here to listen. Can I ask, trees, of course, are very practical things. They take carbon dioxide out of the air and give us oxygen. So they're wonderful in that way. They also look wonderful. And so are you doing it for a range of reasons, not just, the carbon thing, but also to me, trees give hope. They're living things. Is that why you're doing it also?
Yeah, just creating a big change. Because we sometimes plant fruit trees, mangoes, oranges, apple trees. Sometimes they can act as food. Sometimes just to curb the emissions from the atmosphere, to create a beautiful sceneries. Trees are very important to our society. Trees, they hold the soil firm to reduce on floods. That's the main reason why I'm doing this, to reduce on the floods.
All right. And that's a very important reason, of course.
Does anyone else have any questions for Dixon?
Yeah, Dixon, John Worker here. Another Canberran in Australia. With the tree planting, it usually takes long-term commitment to administer the trees to make sure they don't die. And have you got a plan together of how to maintain the trees?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for that great question. Yeah, we do that. You know, schools have children, students, teachers. They can take care of the trees. It's very good. They can keep the trees safe. They can protect them until they are mature. Hospitals, they have workers there because they love the trees. Mostly, remember, schools, hospitals, and the community. I think the only danger is on the community trees, the roadside trees, but we always try to sensitize people. We always try to look after them. We go visit the trees until they are more mature for them to be able to survive on their own. Because every tree matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dixon. Thank you for everyone asking questions. Now, Roger is back. Hello, Roger. Keep going.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought of being censored by British security forces or something. Anyway, I'm back. Sorry about that. Well, can I carry on, or have you moved on to other things?
Oh, no, definitely. Keep going, Roger. We've turned our videos off to try and help your internet, but we are laughing at your jokes. So keep going.
Yeah. Well, where was I up to? Right. So, truth number one, it's done. Australia's done. Whatever that means. Truth number two, in my humble opinion, is there's a single reason why the climate change movement has been catastrophically unsuccessful. This is the brutal truth, because it's dominated by a repressed middle-class culture. It's for 30 years, every time someone's tried to do something that's actually effective, gets stamped on. Every time over the last 30 years, someone suggested that they do something that's truthful and real, gets stamped on, right? Let me just two. I haven't got a problem with middle-class culture, by the way. Like, my mother was like a Methodist local preacher, right? I like being nice, but nice doesn't work when you're dealing with genocide. It just doesn't work. That's the way it is. You know, that's 2021. In other words, repression doesn't work, displacement doesn't work. These are the key mechanisms in which a culture which is descending into moral depravity tries to avoid responsibility. Displacement and repression. What does this displacement look like? Displacement looks like this, right? You have a meeting and you read out an acknowledgement statement, right, about the terrible things that have happened to Indigenous people in Australia. It's a displacement activity because acknowledgement is not appropriate. At a time of genocide, only resistance is appropriate. You don't go to the gates of Auschwitz to acknowledge Auschwitz, right? You tear the thing down. You go into resistance. That's what displacement is, right? And what we're seeing in the middle class climate movements around the world is this desperate attempt to appear radical through virtue signaling, through displacement activities, through words, because everyone's terrified of the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is there's no other alternative other than civil resistance at this moment in time. That's probably why you're on this call, because either consciously or unconsciously, you know it's the end of the line. And what I'm trying to communicate, and what I've been trying to communicate for a while, and it's happening now, is that the biggest challenge to me and to you and to all the people around the world is The biggest challenge is it's entirely possible to win. It's entirely possible for the 37 people on this call to change Australian history. That's the biggest repression here, is the idea we're powerless. Absolutely not, right? In the last 2 months, we've seen a few people grab the headlines of their countries with hardly any money, hardly any resources. And they've done it through the power of their fearlessness, right? By stopping being nice. And what does this look like? Like, I think there's several interlocking elements that I'm seeing around the world. The first one is a small group of people have to do what it takes. They have to separate off. They have to stop compromising. They have to stop doing consultations. A small group of people have to come up with the idea of acting in the truth and not compromise. That's what happened in Australia when the people went to prison. They stopped compromising. And this always takes place when a small group of people make that step. A small group of people decide they're going to change history. There's nothing democratic horizontalist about this, right? It's about living and speaking that truth. And the whole of our history is full of people doing this. Go and look it up, right? The suffragettes didn't ask permission, you know? The gay rights activists didn't ask permission. No one asked permission. They go and do it. The second thing is it has to be massively transgressive. That's how you change history, by being massively transgressive, right? What does that mean? It means that you go into the public sphere and expose the implicit violence of that society, of your society, of Australian society, the obscene hypocrisy, the genocidal intent, the treasonous betrayal of the Australian government. And you know you're being successful because they'll bang you up. Going to prison isn't a fetish, it's not an aim, it's a consequence of civil resistance. This is why Gandhi says non-violence is not for cowards, right? Gandhi's been sanitized, Martin Luther's been sanitized. Go and read the 500-page books about them, right? It was a shit show. That's what it looks like, changing society, right? Loads of things go wrong, loads of mistakes are made, loads of people get hurt. It's not pretty. It's not a middle-class ethical discussion, right? It's about getting out there into the thick of it. And it's also about what you say. It's about speaking the truth, right? And a lot of us don't speak the truth because we're worried, right? That it's not going to be helpful, as someone said to me yesterday, right? I was on the front page of the London papers yesterday. Do you know what the headline was? The headline was, Roger Hallam wants to, quote, let people die. Because I told the truth that some people, if they're in ambulances, are not going to get through. Now, the middle class response to that is, that's not helpful, Roger. That's not helping the movement, right? Go and apologize. That's the 30-year strategy of failure. The future success is to demand a right of reply and say, you are obscene hypocrites because you're letting die the people of Africa. You're letting die the young people of this country. You're engaging and standing by while the greatest Holocaust in history is being enacted right at this moment, because the Johnson administration can't even insulate a few houses. What obscenity is that? And for the first time in 30 years, Insulate Britain is putting in the front pages of the headlines that we're engaged in a catastrophic act of violence against the people of the global south. Never has that been on the front page of the Metro. It was on the front page for the first time ever yesterday. This is how you change history. Insulate activists are not taking it lying down. They're not answering the questions. They're not being polite. They're pushing that obscene reality into the face of the interviewers. That's how we change history. That's why we're on the front pages. You've got to mobilize. I'm out 4 nights a week, mobilizing, talking to ordinary British people. If you think that is difficult, think what Martin Luther King did. He was out 5 speeches a day. If you want to change history, it's hard work, right? You have to give up your job. You have to go out every night talking to Australians, even if only 2 people turn up. That's how you recruit people. And without recruitment, you're just going to stay like a little tiny group and all the rest of it. You have to have a demand. You have to have a demand which is about society now, everyday bread and butter issues. You have to have that demand that says, we want to look after firefighters in Australia. We want to do something that's real, that ordinary Australians can think about, not the climate emergency. It's going to be something real. In Britain, it's insulation, right? 400,000 jobs will be created through insulating the UK. You have to have a dilemma demand that's just like ridiculously small. Think about Martin Luther King in Birmingham in 1963. The demand was to have 1 black person work in each department store. It was rubbish. Why was that? Because he wanted to win. But through that confrontation, the whole of America had a debate about the obscenity of racism. What we need in Australia is a national debate about the destruction of that country, the final genocide of the indigenous nations of Australia, the evacuation of Sydney, the absolutely obscene betrayal of the young people of Australia. In the Murdoch press, day after day, they think they're winning, they're not, right? That's how civil resistance works. Let me say something about white supremacy, right? Let's go into the heart of one of the main reasons we people aren't stepping into resistance, because there's this narrative that as soon as people of privilege step into resistance, they're racist. They're not in solidarity. Total bullshit, okay? Number 1, what do you expect privileged people to do? What do you expect them to do? Use their privilege to go into resistance. It's a no-brainer. Number 2, let's expose the obscene lie that people of color, people that are oppressed, the poor, those that are subject to tyranny, right through history, how have they resisted? Through civil resistance, through putting themselves in harm's way, because they're already in harm's way, okay? Let's expose what's going on here. This guilt trip is an act of cowardice by people of privilege against other people of privilege to prevent effective resistance in 2021. Right? It's a middle-class repressive routine. What we have to do is to rebel on the basis of our own culture, our own humanity, and our own lives, right? I'm not in rebellion against the British government because of what's happening in Africa. I can't speak for Dixon. I'm not trying to save Africa. It's not a white savior routine, right? I'm in rebellion against the British government because I want to save my own kids. I want to save my farm. I can't grow on my farm because of extreme weather and I can't take the risk. I'm in rebellion against the British government because I'm part of a 1,000-year indigenous radical British tradition, which has stood up to tyranny and oppression, and my ancestors lived and died for the liberties that I enjoy. And over my dead body, will we lose those liberties? Will we lose those freedoms? Will we destroy that 1,000 years of struggle that produced a semi-decent society, right? 50 miles from where I live are the Welsh valleys. In the 1930s, Welsh working class socialists went to Spain to fight the fascists, right? They didn't buy into a vulnerability culture. They went to Spain not because they were going to win, but because it was the right thing to do. That's my culture. That's where I come from. And everyone on this call has to decide what your culture is, right? What radicals were doing in Australia over the last 100 years. That's your culture. Because you have to be part of that culture, otherwise you get picked off. And like Dixon says, the #1 priority is to keep pushing. You have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. And the more fearless you are, the quicker you'll win, right? That's the fundamental point. The fear has gone. When the fear has gone, you start to win. 100 people in the UK have had more national publicity than the entire Extinction Rebellion episode 4 weeks ago. Why? Because their fear has gone. They haven't stepped down, right? The people who stepped into Insulate Britain and blocked the motorways, the deal was you go and do it 3 times, you get put into prison and you're there for a week. What we find now is the British state is saying, we are going to come after you, right? We're going to take your houses. We have an injunction. We're going to take your savings. We're going to put you into prison for 2 years. That's what the British state is saying to those 100 people. What's the response? You know what the response is? Bring it on, right? Because the fear has gone. That's why we're changing history in the UK at the moment, because the fear has gone. That's it. I'm stopping a little bit early. Have I got another 4 minutes?
You do, but we can
That's
stop.
it. I haven't got anything else to say. You know, I'm not an orator. I'm just banging something out.
I think you are an orator, but I've seen your television interviews. They're very good. All right, who has questions? I bet we've got some. Dan, go for it.
Hi, Roger. Dan here from Melbourne. Thanks so much for your speech. Just wondering about the value of, in terms of that truth-telling, the idea that, Australia is done versus the chances of not being done is vanishingly small, but still possible. Bit unclear about that, that kind of difference in value. And, I've really taken what you've said in the past to heart about acting out of values and not hope. And I feel like that's been really good for me around that kind of vanishingly small thing. But I don't know. That was clear.
Do you want me to respond?
Just, the value of saying that we're done, opposed to there's a really small chance that we're not done, and I'll act from a place of values and not hope, because, even though it's vanishingly small.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Extinction Rebellion was set up with a religious proposition, right? A metaphysical proposition, right? Which has a 10,000-year tradition behind it. And this is the proposition, right? You live in truth, otherwise you're fucked, right? It's nothing to do with postmodern PR, let's create a campaign and work out how we're going to influence the public, right? That's little humanist, arrogant, delusion of the global North middle class over the last 30 years, right? Going back to Aristotle, going back to all the perennial wisdoms of our societies, there's one point of your existence, which is to live in truth. And if you deviate from that path of living in truth, you go to hell, literally, right? This is why our society is going to hell, because it's lost its way. It's lost its ability to live in truth, regardless of the consequences, right? You're not here to win, you're here to live in the truth. And the eternal paradox of living in the truth is you're massively powerful. You bring down empires, right? People bring down empires by living in the truth. So if Australia's done, Australia's done, right? It's not a piece of rhetoric. It is what it is. We are engaged in the obscene genocide of Africa. It's a fact, right? That is what it is. It's also an absolute truth that we can massively change, right? By living in that truth. Those are the truths, and they are what they are. And if that leads to failure, so be it, right? Because we're not put in this world to win, right? We're put into this world to do God's will, right? That's the traditional proposition, right? I can secularize it for you as an award-winning social scientist, okay? It doesn't matter which culture or language you use. It's a fundamental human truth. And the climate movement is just endlessly filled with overly clever middle-class people that think they can win by manipulation. They failed, right? The climate movement's going to explode in the next 2 years under the weight of its own contradictions. And what's happening in Australia at the moment, what's happening in the UK, what's happening with the hunger strikers in Germany, right? What's happening with these other civil resistance moves is the implosion of that manipulative, over-controlling culture. That's the proposition.
Thank you, Roger. The next question is from Julian Rosa.
Do you want to put your video on for a sec? Rosa.
Yeah, we were just wondering, you say when, you had your houses threatened, et cetera, but you no longer had fear, like what helped you lose all that? What pushed you over the edge? Because I think we still have a little bit of fear, just a smidge.
That's a serious question actually from me, Roger, is that I'm angry that I have fear, but I have to be honest about that. I have to be honest about having the fear, but I'm embarrassed by that and really, really wanting to move through that. And I'm embarrassed, but it's true. And I want to move through it.
Yeah, well, let's have a mutual confession session, right? The first time I stood in a road, my legs were shaking, right? I'm a complete scared. I'm terrified. I was beaten up as a kid, for reading Plato at school at a working class school. I've got plenty of traumas I can present to you. The central point here is the great phrase about courage, right? Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that there's something more important than your fear, right? I mean, I spent 2 days ago, I was walking around London going, fuck, I'm going to get beaten up any moment, because on the front page of the newspaper everyone's reading is Roger Hallam wants to let people die, right? I was shitting myself. And then I went to sleep and I got up in the morning and said, fuck that, right? I'm not going to step down. You know, the Metro is the most hypocritical load of bullshit in the history of the British journalism, right? Why aren't they putting on the front page, we are allowing 1 billion Africans to die? Why aren't we letting the next generation die? Why haven't they put that? I'm going to write to the Metro and go, give me the right of reply. You know, if you've got any semblance of British open debate, you fucks, right? You know, it's like the game's up, right? You know, I had a nice middle class upbringing, blah, 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 don't swear. And then I spent like 30 years with agricultural workers that swear every 3 words, right? Because their life is hard. So it's over, right? It's over. I'm over it. And that's what those 100 people are doing. You see what I mean? They're all shitting themselves, but they went on an 8-hour non-violence training, right? And they get pulled around the room. They get hit by socks in the face, right? You know, they're doing the Freedom Riders routine. The Freedom Riders did 3 days of role playing to be able to face death. And they did face death and they kept their cool. And we haven't had a single person in the road as they've been kicked and spat on and stepped on and their wrists are being twisted by the police. Everyone's kept cool. Not because they're heroes, right? They're not gods. It's because they designed in non-violence training, right? Like they've been doing since Gandhi, right? So there's no heroes, right, on this call, right? Least of all me. I'm the biggest coward here, right? But the difference between me and an average coward is I don't let my cowardice get on the top of me. You see what I mean? Because we're all going to get hurt anyway. My kids are going to get hurt anyway. So that's the formulation, isn't it? Go and watch the Freedom Riders, right? You've got that black kid and he's saying, "Oh, you're going to get hurt." She says, "I'm going to get hurt anyway." We're all going to get hurt anyway. We're going into the biggest like tragedy in human history. So, you know, like fear's a muscle, isn't it? Right? It's like anything else. You push it and you push it and you get better and you get better. Like when I go to court, it's like going shopping. You know, it's just something else that's happening during that day. You know, I went to court like 3 weeks ago and the lawyer says, you could be sent down for a year or 2. And a little bit of my body goes into panic and goes, fuck, I'm going to be put into, you know, and then another bit of my body goes, whatever, right? Whatever it takes. You know, I just read a load of books. It's all right. I'm not going to have my fingernails pulled out. You know, you don't pretend you don't have the ability to change yourself, right? In a community of resistance. And that's what you guys have got in Australia, right? You're leading the way. You're ahead of the UK. Well done. You know, it's like Insulate Britain people are looking at you guys, right? You might think, okay, there's only 7 people. No, we were going, the Australians have done it. We're going to do it, right? And then the Germans are going to look at us in the UK and go, they did it, we're going to do it. And then the Australians are going to look at the Germans, right? This is an international community of resistance. That's all that counts now, right? Is that we're on the move, aren't we? It's good. That's why I'm looking happy. It's on the move at last. It's a bit like, you know, it's a bit like we haven't been able, it's like 1870 and no one's been able to talk about sex, you know what I mean? Because we're in this polite Victorian society, someone's actually said fucking's good. You know? It's like the Stonewall protest, you know? I was reading yesterday in the Stonewall protest and they were going, when you have a gay march, don't hold hands, right? Because that's not helpful. That's going to give us bad publicity. And someone said, fuck that, I'm going to hold hands with my lover. That's when the revolution happens, right? Is when you break out of that crap, right? of repression and fear and all the rest of it. And you can do it, right? It's all right. Life goes on. Get up in the morning, have your breakfast, have a shit, get on with the job.
Thank you, Roger. All right, there's another question from Gerard.
Hi, Roger. Yeah, I think everyone here agrees with you that, you know, tell the truth is key to everything. You know, it's something that we all know has to happen at every level of society, because every level of society is living an untruth. Everything's totally unsustainable, hooked on consumerism. Politicians are allowed to lie. Corruption is rife. Everyone knows that. But we don't want, well, what I worry about is that people don't really want the truth to come out. They suspect the emperor's got no clothes on in every facet of life, but that probably scares them stupid. And do they want the truth to be told? I worry that they don't. People want to keep living in a vacuous dream all the way to the end. How do we overcome that? How do we want them to look hard at the truth and act on it?
Yeah. Well, you know, with all due respect, you're just telling yourself a story that will rationalize your inactivity, right? Like, this is what Western middle class people do all the time. They think they have to have a plan, right? I mean, I do plans all the time, but it's on a philosophical basis that it doesn't matter whether that plan works or not, because I'm going into this anyway, right? I'm an Aristotelian virtue ethics man. The point of your life is to live a good life, period, right? It's not, your job in life is not to work out that you're not going to win because everyone else is not going to live in truth. Your job is to live in truth, period, right? And that's what I'm saying. You know, the danger of repeating myself is as an expert in political change, I'll tell you now, you will win to the extent that you forget about trying to win. That's the central paradox of political change. It's like, I don't give a fuck what Australians think, right? I am going out and resisting because that's my duty before whatever your value system is, before God, before Australia, before your sense of humanity, whatever it is, right? And that's how people change. And the miracle is when you demonstrate that fearlessness in the Australian public sphere, you will create an explosion, because the social repression, which is dense as fuck, isn't it, in Australia, right? It will explode. And the first people that will explode will be the youth, because they've got the greatest to lose. But maybe it won't happen, Gerard, right? Maybe you'll just be one of those many in history that stand up and just get slaughtered. And so be it, right? So be it. You know, when those socialists in the Welsh valleys near I live went to the Spanish Civil War to die, right, for liberty and socialism and all the rest of it, they didn't go because they thought they were going to win. They didn't win, right? They could have sat in the Welsh valleys and said, like you, there's too many fascists in Spain. They're not going to change. The Republicans aren't organized. We're not going to win. We're not going to go. No, what they did is said, this is what I am, right? This is who I am. I stand for the liberty and equality of humanity. And off they went, even though they left their families in poverty, even though people told them they were twats, you know, they just did it. And they inspired generation after generation of radicals during the 20th century, right? That's what my tradition is based on here in Wales. And you have your traditions, right? You go and look it up. Go and look it up on Wikipedia. The radicals in Australia, they didn't always win, but by fuck, like they tried, right? Didn't they? You know, look at the Labour struggles in Australia in the early 20th century. They didn't sit around going, the working class rubbish and they're not going to rise up. They said, fuck that, we're going to do it anyway. You see what I'm saying, right? This is the transition that we need to like grapple with on this call and in Australia and in the UK and in Germany, right? I mean, when those 7 young people came to me in Germany and said, oh, you know, we're going to go on hunger strike, I didn't say to them, yeah, you're going to win and you're going to capture the German election, and you're going to be on the front pages. No, I said no, right? But that's the right thing to do, is to say to the German public, we're starving ourselves to death because you're fucking killing our generation, right? That's the power. That's how 7 people changed German history, right? So think what 400 people can do. That's why you have to be out like 5 nights a week, right? Talking. I went out last night, no one turned up. No one turned up to my talk. So what am I going to do? Just be miserable and go back to my farm and say Londoners don't give a shit? No, I'm going to go out tonight and there'll be 3 people, right? When I did the first Extinction Rebellion talks, right? I went to my friend in Nottingham. I said, we're going to have a rebellion against the British government. He said, fantastic, I'm going to get all my mates to turn up. So I turned up and there was him and 1 mate. That's how Extinction Rebellion started, 2 people in the room. And I could have easily said, well, people in Nottingham don't give a damn. I'm not going to do this Extinction Rebellion rubbish. I said, fuck that, we're striding on. And, you know, within 2 months, there were 1,000 people signed up in Nottingham, right? So keep going, mate.
All right, we don't have much time left, guys, like 5 minutes. All right, Tim from Victoria.
Hi, Roger. Yeah, you've been blocking freeways for like 4 weeks, which is sort of, I guess, going back to an earlier tactic, as it were. Like, how important do you think it is to cause, like, I guess, that kind of chaos on a societal level in terms of like doing major disruption to everyday people?
So I think civil resistance has 2 rules, right? Number 1, an absolute commitment to non-violence, right? You're not hitting people, you're not shooting people, you're not blowing things up. That's what classical civil resistance means, right? An absolute line in the sand, which is you remain non-violent as an individual, number 1. Number 2, create as much chaos as is necessary to get your society to wake up, right? Whatever it non-violently takes. Those are the 2 rules. So how do you get Australia to wake up? That's your question, right? And don't censor yourself. You know, like in the suffragettes, what's the archetype? What's the major event in the suffragettes? The woman runs out into the Derby race, right, in front of a horse and gets killed. That's chaos, right? What have the horse races got to do with women's vote? Nothing. It's not about reductive middle-class environmental logics, right? It's a moral challenge to the depravity of your society. Women have an absolute right to the vote. So I will close down the horse races, right, until you listen to me, yeah? Like with the ACT UP activists in 1990, they're going, this is obscene. There's gay guys dying in their vomit in hospital corridors because this shitty society won't wake up to the absolute dignity and rights of gay people to get medicine. So what did they do? Did they go to hospitals and blocked hospitals? No, they went to the New York Stock Exchange and closed it down. What did the stock exchange have to do with gay rights? Fuck all, it didn't matter, right? Because they were challenging American society and saying, you believe in the equality of human beings, bullshit, because you're letting people die in hospital corridors because they dare to fuck other men, right? What you have to do is close down Australia and say, you're engaged in the murder of our children, right? And we're not stopping until you wake up to your responsibilities. Because Australia means nothing. It means nothing unless it protects its young, right? What you're saying to the climate movement is you're doing nothing to Indigenous peoples. You're not supporting Indigenous peoples unless you're in active resistance against a society and a government that is engaged in the second genocide of those people, right? And the next 1,000 generations. It's a no-brainer in other words, isn't it, right? So go and get a blank sheet of paper and work out how you're going to close down Australia for its own sake, right? And they'll hate you like hell, like they hated Martin Luther King in 1961, like they hated the suffragettes, right? Why they hated Larry Kramer, right? Larry Kramer, everyone loves him now. He's on the side of London buses, okay? Because he's got his play showing in London. Everyone loves his play, right? In 1990, they thought he was a complete fucker.
All right.
Everyone's going to hate you. And then in 5 years' time, they're all going to love you again. That's how it works.
Thanks, Roger. I'm just going to let Dixon give us a final word, and then anyone who wants to stick around and keep asking questions, you're free to do that. You're right, Dixon. Yeah, excellent.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. You got 5 minutes to make a speech.
Thank you. Training already here. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. I'm truly happy to share my story with you people. And I would request for your support. Please help me support my campaign, 1 million tree planting campaign, because together we can. Let's forget about our leaders. Let's forget about all the mistakes they are doing and start acting. We can do this. Together we can do this. Nothing can fail us unless if we decide to fail ourselves. Because everything is possible. Every support matters. You can spread the message. You can share. Please share my project campaign on your social media network. I would wish to connect with all of you because mostly I talk to Andrew George. I would like to have a private talk to Roger Hallam, an amazing person, very inspiring. And I would like to connect with everyone at least so that I can expand my community, so I can expand, so that I can discuss with everyone. You can help me, give me knowledge, advice, and how we can do this. Because I'm not perfect. I cannot do this alone. I need people like you, people who can support me, people who can push my campaign forward. Thank you so much. I don't know how I can thank you, but I'm truly happy and blessed to meet all of you. And thank you so much. A man that refuses to stand for what is right will always regret. That's what I end with. We know what is right and we have to stand for it. We have to do what is right for us to be able to prepare for the next generation. If it's putting our leaders at stake, if it's pushing for the campaign, we have to push it. We have to continue pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing for it, for us to achieve whatever we want to achieve. Thank you so much. I will be waiting for you. You can follow me on Twitter at Bahandagira D, at Instagram, Facebook, Dixon Bahandagira, and my WhatsApp is always on 07041026666. Thank you so much for everything you have done for me. Have a blessed night, because it's during the day here.
Thank you so much, Dixon. Everyone donate. Okay, Roger, do you have time for like one last question?
Yeah. I just wanted to say hi, Dixon, by the way. Thanks so much for your speech.
Thank you so much.
And,
I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
Yeah. I can do one more question. Yeah,
right.
And then I have to go.
All right, we'll do Adam's question.
I'll try and be polite on my last question as well, so you don't ban me.
Yeah, we'll do Adam. Julie, you'll just have to wait. You have plenty of chances. All right, Adam, you still there?
Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Dixon. Thanks, Roger. Really appreciate your work. I'm really curious about what your research or experience says around having non-disruptive actions. Over to you. It could be a very short answer, but if you find them to be helpful to a movement or whether they come to be a distraction. Personally, I like them, but keen to hear what your research has found. And for example, I'm talking about like having chalkings out the front of banks is something that we're doing as a way of a warning shot to do something more later. But yeah, keen to hear what you've found.
Yeah, I don't think they're any good. I'll try to be polite. Yeah, they're no good, right? You know, Australia's done. We're facing a genocide. You know, it's done. We're done on politeness. We're done on. We've done 30 years of going up to a bank and putting a bit of chalk on their front door. It's not going to work, is it? So, you know, the main thing is it's okay. You know, stepping into resistance is okay. You know, I'm still here. Life goes on. It's all right. I mean, you know, behind your question for me is just fear. You know, it's fear about stepping out of your upbringing, the narratives you've been told, the culture you've been brought up in. And this is the big transformation that's going to save the world in so much as it ever is going to be saved. And we're all in that transition on this call to varying extents, aren't we? And some of us will make it, some of us won't. For those of us that make that transition, will save the world in the next 5 years. It's happened before, it'll happen again. So, you know, let's see the big picture. It's fate has thrown us into the most dramatic moment in human history. People are going to get a bit excitable. It's okay. It's only human. And maybe we'll make it, maybe we won't, but we're not going to be making it by doing non-disruptive action, right? So that's gone. With all due respect, Adam.
Thanks. No, I thought you might say that. That's good.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. Now I can't like scream things in my house, but we can probably do a round of applause. And yeah, I think our speakers really deserve it. So thank you very much, Roger and Dixon. I'm sure we'll hear from you again. I'm going to go have my dinner, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. Good luck. Love you all. Thank you. See you in a bit.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Everyone can unmute and give a round of applause. And
Rebellion!
Rebellion! And next Wednesday, same time, or Thursday, you can come along to a session because there's a lot of stuff coming up very soon. There's a chance to engage in civil resistance. Pretty much wherever you are in the country, we have sort of a support team to help facilitate that. It is now more than ever the time to get fully amongst it. So come along next week. Otherwise, you can, if you're not already connected, then you can email the Dance Affinity at protonmail.com or get in touch with myself, Sergio, Violet, etc.
Love you all!